Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Pause, Reflect, and Connect Book Club. Today, I'll be chatting with author Pennie Clayton about her book, A Dog for All Seasons, How to Keep Your Dog Healthy and Happy Throughout the Year. Pennie has worked for many years teaching horses, riders, and also helping support and provide advice to dog carers with behavior and training issues that they're experiencing with their dogs. Pennie specializes in areas including pain issues in dogs, canine reactivity, rescue dogs, and sight hounds of all shapes and sizes. And she runs a regular outdoor puppy class and social walks. She writes regularly for a national dog magazine and is also a canine, equine, and human Bowen therapist. Pennie is also a behaviour advisor to the Project Galgo, a local retired greyhound branch where she got her own greyhounds from. And she runs a canine enrichment business in Crowborough in East Sussex called Scent Venture. She's also co-director of the Slow Dog Movement and runs a group called Enhancing the Life of Your Hound on Facebook. So welcome, Pennie, and thank you for joining me for another episode of the Pause, Reflect, Connect Book Club. And I'm really excited to hear about your book. And so let's get started. What about telling us what inspired you to write your book?
Okay, so I have a group on Facebook that I write on regularly. It's called Enhancing the Life of Your Hound. So I thought after a little while, it started with a friend of mine who was doing a course on, I think it was mindfulness or something. And what she was advised to do was do something creative every day because she was finding her work was really, really hard and she was tired. And then I thought, that's such a great thing. So what she was doing, I think, was she was doing photography. I thought, actually, that's really good. I could just write something every day. So I was pretty much, not every single day, but I would write on the group every day about something, whatever popped into my mind. And then there was after a while, I realized that I had all these words available to me. And because I am one of those people, I live by the seasons. I really hate the winter. I really hate the cold. I really hate the wet. So those things would reflect what I wrote about. So it occurred to me when I was talking to Laura Dobb of the Slow Dog Movement, and she was saying to me, you write all this stuff and it's a waste, and what are you going to do with it? She was having a bit of a rant, really. And I thought, yeah, I know what I could do with it. I could actually make a book out of it because very few people, I think, especially with Facebook, it's all so quick. People read things, they go on, they read things, they go on. And I had already got quite a few long articles that I'd written as well, and which I don't post on Facebook because people don't read them. I don't read them. I look at a post and I think, I'd really like to read that. And I very rarely go back and read it. So I hadn't posted those on Facebook. So that was really the reason that I did add loads and loads of stuff because some of the posts were really short for the reason that people read very quickly and then pass on. But that was really the inspiration behind the book.
Excellent. Love that. I love that. And I love, as you say, how wonderfully creativity can help us in a whole different sense of inspiring a more mindful and more present life. And actually, our creativity can inspire expression and so many different things. So I really love that you've been able to put that to good use in this case. So tell me, Pennie, the title, A Dog for All Seasons. So you've mentioned that seasons was not something that, or you lived by the seasons and there were seasons that you didn't particularly like or don't particularly like. So why A Dog for All Seasons? What is that title all about?
There's a bit of a story behind this. When I was at school, the very favourite book I studied was A Man for All Seasons, and I've never forgotten it. And I don't know why it was so powerful, but it was really powerful. We really studied it and looked at all the nuances in it and the analogies, and like you do when you're doing English lit at school. So then I first of all, I had played around with the idea of enhancing, like, something around the title of the group. And then I thought, oh, I've got it. You know how sometimes you just have those moments,
Mm.
oh, I've got it. It was up until that point, it wasn't in seasons as such, although I'd written them, in it to a degree, I'd written them about seasonal things. And I thought, I've absolutely got it now. So that's why that title popped into my head, because for some reason I was obviously thinking about the book, The Man for All Seasons. And then I thought, do you know, that's it. I'll just do it in seasons. And I'll put
Beautiful.
some other bits and pieces in there that are really could be any, could be relevant to any season. But
Mm-hmm.
then I thought that actually, because people do that thing, don't they? They'll write about the heat in the summer and, be careful and don't do this and do this and don't do this. And it's never in one place. You've got blogs. A lot of people do blogs, and that's great. I don't read a lot of blogs. I'm not really, again, I think, I'd love to read that. And then I go away from it and I lose the page. And so I thought the fact that it's all in one book would actually be a different thing. And then, of course, when I looked, I decided on the title, and then I looked at some other, I looked at what was on, if anybody else wrote a book with the same name. And of course, people have, but some of them are kind of picture books.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them is about a particular story of a dog. So there was nothing actually the same as there was nothing the same at all.
Yeah,
So
I certainly haven't come across anything of that nature. So I think it's beautiful. And I was just saying to you earlier that at the beginning of autumn, I actually did a talk in my group specifically about autumn and the different changes we see not only in nature, but in ourselves and our dogs. So tell us a little bit about that. Why do we have changes? Why do our dogs change? Why do we change with the seasons?
I think primarily the dogs change because, so for instance, we put big coats on in the winter and hats, and so people say to me, my dog's suddenly got scared about people. And then you realise they've got the hats on, they've got their coats on, they're normally dark, aren't they? Who can find a bright coat anywhere? Not that it really matters for dogs, and then we move differently because we've got all these layers on, and they just move differently. They must look like kind of monsters to dogs sometimes. And we move, we're either moving really fast because it's really cold, or moving like, it's just freezing. I know I do. I definitely change my posture in the winter. And the difference in people's, when they're walking, when it's sunny and they're strolling along and their bodies are relaxed and they've got less clothes on and they're bright. And, there's so many differences, even just looking at what the difference in how we move and what we put on ourselves. And, then you've got those kind of sparkly things as well that people tend to wear more often in the winter. They might have sparkly clothes because they're going to a party, even though I know that if you're walking your dog, it's not a thing. But where I live, people will often walk down to the village hall and they've got not exactly party clothes on, but they've got sparkly stuff. The children have got sparkly stuff on. And even the effect of the dogs, the sparkly stuff, and the fact that people have, they might have torches and the car lights, because it's so busy by my road. And then we spend half the time this morning walking down here, and it's been raining, and trying to avoid the cars that are swooshing up towards us, flashing us. And so we inadvertently, we almost, I think, notify the dogs that, things have changed.
That's amazing. That is incredible because I mean, I've thought of it more from the sort of nature side of it, where there's these distinct feet, as you say, we feel like we're more hungry perhaps in winter, we put on different clothes, all that kind of thing. But as you say, I never even noticed, like you said, the posture changes in winter. When we walk quicker. And yes, all those clothes that come on. And if in my area, we've got people with, skis and sticks and all sorts of things. So it's yeah, fascinating that we forget how sensitive our dogs are to changes in the environment, because that's their information, right? That's how they read the world. That's how they understand the world. And so small changes that we are making or that the people are making in that season can be a big thing for some sensitive dogs. So, Penny, what kind of like you said, you mentioned right at the beginning there, so my dog is suddenly more fearful of men or something, let's say, or people walking.
Yeah.
What is that about?
I just think more than anything, I think it just changes the shape of the silhouette of people.
Yes.
You know, you will know as well as I do, you're going to end up walking, well, even if you walk in the day, people's silhouettes change, don't they? I mean, I
Mm.
walked towards somebody and thought, oh, they look a bit scary. And then as they come closer, they'll say, oh, good morning or good evening. And then you go,
Phew.
oh, they look imposing, don't
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Often people look imposing, and it's not until you get quite close that you know it's the person that lives down the road, even if you
That's
don't
it.
know their name.
That's it.
Um, or um, there's, I think there's so many things, and the dogs are really, as you say, they're really sensitive to that. We may think we're not necessarily sensitive to that
Mm.
until you come across a situation like that.
Mm. And
So
like you said, we hardly even notice that, that sort of that little bit of anticipation, like, do I trust that figure coming towards me or do I recognize them? And then sort of, as you say, that sort of sigh of relief. We're very unaware of our own inner workings. We're very unaware of our own bodily sensations and even our thoughts sometimes, because we're so distracted by whatever, thinking about what we're going to do next and where we're
yeah,
going next, etc., that we lose sight of what's really happening in our bodies and our automatic sort of system that's always on the lookout for danger, as it were. So yeah, fascinating. One of the things I noticed about other seasons like spring and autumn is that dogs become a lot more in tune again with the environment. Wildlife is more active at those times, and so they become more active. So dogs who have a strong drive to sort of to chase other animals and that kind of thing, their hunting instincts, as it were, seem to kick in
yeah, they do.
in those two seasons more than usual. So people may say suddenly my dog is nose is on the ground or up in the air and I can't get their attention. And it's very often because of those seasonal changes, because there is more happening in the nature that we often unaware of, that they can pick up on. So what do you think about that?
Oh, absolutely. And I specifically remember a day I was sitting with one of my greyhounds, and it was spring. It was, it was proper spring, sun and, green, and it was beautiful, beautiful, kind of probably mid-spring. And I just did a little video of my greyhound sitting having a chew. And then I played it back later and I thought, the birds, they
Mm.
were just so loud and so joyful. And then even further up towards August, I did another video, nothing, that obviously you could hear some of the birds, but it was nothing like as
Nothing in
loud
comparison.
and vibrant, and it was just beautiful. Um, I didn't even really clock that. I knew they were singing, but it wasn't till I played it back and I thought, oh gosh, listen to them all. That would be so much part of our dog's world, wouldn't it? They would hear that because they're not looking at their phones and they're not, like you say, their minds aren't full of what am I going to do next week and what am I going to have for lunch and
Mm,
all
mm,
the random rubbish that goes on in our heads.
yeah, yeah.
And then,
Yeah, and it is amazing. I've also wasn't aware of sounds as much as I was until you make a video, as you say, on your phone, and you actually hear that when you're playing it back and you think, God, I didn't even hear that. So you said, the birds. Sometimes it's distractive noises for our dogs, like a lorry going back or working on another house down the road or whatever it is that we sort of tune out. And for sensitive dogs, they may be picking that up on all the time, unable to maybe, sift through and tune that out a lot of the time. So yeah, it's quite an eye opener, or an ear opener, should I say, when we actually film something on our phones like that. Wow. Yeah. So, Penny, tell me something. When you were writing this book, was there something new that you learned yourself, or something that came up during the writing of this book that really was profound for you or stood out for you?
What comes up is the fact that you might have an idea about something, and then you have to go back and make sure that what you think is right, there's solid proof for it. So I know I'm also do Bowen therapy. So we often talk about different things and different muscles and different tendons, and I haven't got a huge amount of knowledge about that, because I'm not saying it's not of interest to me, it's of huge interest to me, but I'm not one of those people that has to go through every single muscle and knows what it does and how it does. So if you write something, then you've got to go back and think, now, was that right? When I'm talking about that area of the body, is this right or is it wrong?
Mm-hmm.
And that journey of kind of going back into, for instance, like the Bowen stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and then reviewing that, or having a look at perhaps somebody else that does, body work with dogs.
Mm-hmm.
That's really, really interesting,
Mm-hmm.
because then it throws up, we all do it on the internet. We start looking at something and then something else
Go
comes up
down a rabbit hole.
down a rabbit hole. But that process is really, really good. And also the amount you learn just by putting thoughts down on a piece of paper.
Yes. Isn't
And
that powerful?
what's really cool sometimes is that I write something and then I go back in 2 weeks' time and I think, did I write that?
I've had that experience too. Did I write that?
It always it's always quite funny. And I just think, no, I can't have written that. That sounds way too sensible, authoritative. And then
Yeah.
other times you write something and you think, oh, that's a load of rubbish, isn't it?
But yeah, I love that process where you say it's getting out what's in your head out on paper. It can be a very difficult experience when you first start writing. But wow, as you say, sometimes it the clarity comes out for me when I'm writing, It seems a bit jumbled. I've got the concepts and the understanding, but the moment I put it on paper, it's like, wow, there's the clarity that I was seeking. There's the insight that's coming from that. So it can be a very powerful process in
Yeah,
the writing of it. Yeah. And I love, as you said, all the research that goes in behind it, to look at, what is there research behind it, and what's happening there. What I'm observing, is there sort of, as you say, science or research to back that up, which is really interesting. So then let's wrap it up with, what was your intention for this book, and who is it for? Who would you recommend reads it? And what is your intention that they would get from this book? Is your hope that somebody would get from your book?
um, I was hoping that people would enjoy reading it, and when they picked it up, and part of it is, and we talked a little bit about this just now, that sometimes when you pick a book up and you flick through it and you think, oh my gosh, how the hell am I going to get through that? And I know that people that have bought it said, oh, I'm just reading the summer bit now, and I'm just reading the autumn bit. And I really like that. I like the idea of being able to pick a book up and put it to one side and then pick it up a bit later, because I often do that with books anyway. But because it's so relevant to each season, I hoped that people would, oh, it's winter now. I wonder what's in that funny book that I bought a
Yeah.
few weeks ago or last year or whatever. That wonder what's in there about that. So that was my hope, that people wouldn't necessarily read it from cover to cover. They're great if they do, but they would just hang on to them, because I know early on, I did a book writers course with Sally Gutteridge, Canine Principles, and the course was about writing a book in 30 days, and people did really, really well. Did you do that course?
Yes, I did start that. Yes.
I was actually, I'm trying to write another book. I was actually writing that book, and this one is a completely different thing altogether. And people were really good. And one of them was really disappointed, because she said she wrote it, she published it, did all the work on it, And then she said, "Oh, I saw one in the charity shop last week." It's like, well, don't worry about it. Obviously somebody's read it. Good that it's in the charity shop. She was very upset about it. And I thought, yeah, I probably would be, but at least it's being passed around. I can understand why
Exactly.
she was so disappointed, but it was her very first book. And but people probably read it and thought, okay, I've got all that stuff. I don't need it anymore. I'll pass it around. But one of my thoughts was, wouldn't it be great to write a book that somebody just had sitting, that they're like, oh yeah, that might go back to that book and have a look at what's in there. So
I
that
love that idea, Penny. It's really, I mean, most of these books that you see behind me, I've got another big bookshelf over there, but these ones are books that I refer to
yeah,
fairly regularly. I'll pull it out and yes, this book has had that information and I'm going to refresh my memory on that or read about this. And as you say, isn't it lovely that you can pick up the seasons? Oh, the seasons are changing. What do I need to be aware of?
yeah,
What can I remember? So definitely a book, as you say, you don't have to just read through once it's a story and put it aside. It's something that you can continuously refer back to, which is really great. And then, as you say, then pass that information on to others, right?
yeah,
Isn't that, that's something I really want to try and promote more, is that the more we learn, the more we should be sharing that with others, right? In whatever way that is. It doesn't have to be that they have to go and write a book or do something, but just sharing with others what they have learned. And not coming from the place of I know better now, but from a place of this is what I learned. Would it be interest to you? Would it be supportive for you? Because I think if more of that person to person sharing versus us scrolling through internet and Facebook and etc. and reading random things from other people, isn't it much I think it's much more intimate and more human to be able to be sharing information between each other and experiences with each other. So I think it's a very powerful thing. And hence one of the reasons why I have book club now is to discuss these things with people. So open them up to different resources and different books that are available so that they can themselves, if this is something that they're interested in, that they can look in further to that. So yes, Penny, thank you. Is there anything that you would like to wrap this up with? I will have all the details of where people can buy your book in below the video. But I'd love you to just wrap it up for us and tell us anything else you want to share.
I think I might have said it all. What I really want to share, I think, is about observing people observing their dogs instead of just. And we all do it to an extent. I do it to an extent. I walk out, I come in, and the dog's like, "Hi," and then you do. I'm just going to put the shopping away. And wouldn't it be nicer just to connect with our dogs and just look at them and think, oh, so it's a little bit hot today. And it's not a very good example actually, but there's a change. Something's happened
Yes.
in that day. It's got a bit colder. It's got a bit warmer. They're responding in a particular way rather than just having a kind of specific way of dealing with the summer. That we have all these fluctuations in our lives. Even there's a little bit in the book about my brother coming in to look after my dogs, and they were a bit kind of. I was away for a few days teaching riding camp, and I came back and I thought they seem a little bit flat somehow. And obviously they'd had this strange man living in their house for 3-4 days, however long it was. And even those things which people are like, oh, I need somebody to look after my dogs and make sure they do everything right. The experience of the dogs, how weird must that be for somebody to walk in your house and just go, oh, I'm here now.
Yeah, mum's gone, strangers here, and let's just get on with it. Yeah, 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 it is. And like I love that. I love that, Penny. Just being more present, more observing our dogs more, really just tuning into them. There was a tip that I picked up years ago about just get your hands on your dog every single day. Just touch them, be with them just for a few minutes. You'll notice little changes. You'll notice body tension. You'll notice difference in expressions. You'll notice all sorts of changes in yourself and them. If you just spend those few minutes a day, just get your hands on your dog and just be with them present, sort of try and tune in and just notice what's different. Don't label it or anything. Just notice what's different, what's changed. And you generally can start to see patterns, and you can start to see information that you may have totally missed, as you say, if we, just so somewhere else in our head, usually where we are. So that's beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, observing our dogs and really just noticing those changes, as you say. Not what should I be doing differently? What does your dog need? How's your dog responding? That one in front of you.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
So thank you, Pennie. Thank you. It's been wonderful talking to you. As I said, lovely to finally meet you after following your Facebook group for a long time, and your writing has always inspired me. So thank you, and I wish you all the best with your book. Continued success with that, and let's hope to see many, many more books from you in the future. All right, Pennie. Thank you. Take care now. Bye-bye.